Welcome to Locked On Marlins, guys. Welcome back. A week hiatus from me. As you can see by my face, I was enjoying the sun in Tenerife. There was no episodes. I apologize for that, but we are back. I'm back with a bang, continuing on with the series, digging into spring battles. And we are focusing heavily today on the outfield. And I think there is one of the biggest battles in spring happening in the outfield. And it all could impact and hinge around not just Jazz Chisholm, but equally Avisail Garcia. Tons to get into all on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from a cold, grey and dark England. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to Locked On Marlins. I, of course, am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter at Miami Marlins _UK. If you are listening to the pod, hit subscribe, leave a review. It's your team every day. It's Locked On Marlins, baby. There is a YouTube channel that is also called Locked On. Head over to there, hit subscribe too. Our subscriber numbers, they're trending. It's in the right direction. We're almost at 500. In YouTube world, 1,000 is the magical number. So once you get to 1,000, you've made it in YouTube. Locked On Marlins is trending that way. Guys, welcome back to the show. It's your daily Marlins podcast, and we are back with a serious bang. I have a UK GOAT in the house. I think it's maybe his third appearance. I may be wrong in that, but nevertheless, Alan Witz is in the house. Witzy, how we doing, brother?
I'm doing good, thank you, mate. Good evening. Welcome back. We all missed you, mate. We all missed you.
I know, mate. I know. And listen, I missed it too. I did, but I didn't take the gear. But I was on, I was on standby. If anything major dropped, then I felt like I could just about muster up an episode without any divorce proceedings. Yeah, it would have gone down like a lead balloon. But if something happened, you know the drill. If there is news, Locked On Marlins is here. And I would say it was, there was some stuff, but it wasn't newsworthy. It wasn't emergency pod worthy. So we survived. We are back, and we're back to daily, by the way, guys. Just have to call that out. Scheduling notes where we kind of shrunk episodes down to, around about 3 or 4 a week. Full steam ahead now. 5 episodes minimum a week moving forwards. As we've already teased out, Al, we're going to dig heavily into the outfield now. Some people are probably thinking, Alan Witz, I've seen him commenting on Twitter quite a bit. There's a stan. He's a stan of who? Jesus Sanchez stan. So it feels like it was the perfect pod to get you on, mate. But let's start, mate. I don't want to start with Jesus Sanchez because I know the way that conversation's going to go. But let's start with, I think, the biggest news heading into spring in the outfield is clearly Jazz Chisholm Jr. Transitioning, at least that's the situation that's being reported, is Jazz Chisholm going to transition into center field. It's been talked about mainly in Marlins Twitter circles for the past couple of years because we were trying to solve a problem. It sounds like the Marlins in the end have run out of options and decided, let's go with Jazz. Initial reaction on Jazz transitioning to center field, and how successful do you see this being?
I'm nervous. That's probably the best way to put it. I mean, again, I know we're going to talk about Jesus later on, but we're in the situation last year where it wasn't necessarily addressed. They throw somebody else in there. Don't get me wrong, I know they're on completely different levels, but I'm nervous about this one. He's got all the confidence in the world. Christ, he makes you look like a downbeat. He's got no confidence at all, mate, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
He puts you in a different league.
He does.
And he knows he can do it. He said he'll get that golden glove and everything. My main concern would be is that, say things start going wrong. He drops that easy catch. He drops 2 easy catches. What happens then? Fans are all Jazz crazy right now. What happens if, does that knock his confidence? That knock his bat? I'm wondering how long the leash would be. Yeah. How many chances does he get? Is it, he's our guy, let's leave it? Or I'm not sure which way they're going to go about it.
Great points, mate. In your opinion right now, and I think this is kind of where my head's at with not just spring, but as you go into the early part of the season, who's plan B at center field? If something doesn't work with Jazz, i.e. he stinks in center field for whatever reason, which I think is, not the most likely outcome. But let's say like you said, couple of balls fly out there, easy catches, couple of errors in center field early on. That's going to rock him and his confidence. Perhaps if anyone could rock or anything could rock Jazz's confidence, but if that were to be the case, Marlins saying, actually, this isn't going to work, or we need Jazz back at shortstop or second base for whatever, other reason, perhaps. Who's next man up, do you think, in center field this year?
I reckon DLC. I reckon
DLC, yeah.
I reckon he made a couple of errors last year, didn't he? But the Sanchez thing, it wasn't as bad as some people make him out. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't great.
Yeah.
But that's been done now. It's going to be to no one's benefit to stick him back out there again. So that's plan B. And, he wasn't great there. So let's hope this Jazz thing works out. Don't get me wrong, I would love to be talking to you again in a number of weeks' time, in a couple of months' time, going, they knew what they were doing, spot on.
Yeah.
There were question marks at him playing shortstop as well, wasn't there?
There was.
And now you go into the centre field, was a big old area.
It really is.
It's not going to be an easy. If it was easy, everyone would sort of do it. And I'm confused if he's never played there before, but he's going to go out there now. It's not as if he's gone from a corner to centre. It's a whole different world out there.
Yeah, it really is. Someone asked him about it in one of the early media sessions, and how is it going to feel, going to the track and trying to get the dimensions, because it's completely different to obviously the infield, and you don't have to worry about the warning track and the wall behind you, or all those kind of nooks and crannies. And he did say that all ballparks anyway, he would take time to be out on the warning track and starting to learn the dimensions anyway, just for his infield play. But like you said, mate, it's a whole different ball game out there. It's a big ask, and I think the fact that it's Jazz, that's the reason we're confident, because Jazz is so confident. If it was anyone else, if we'd asked, Joey Wendell to go out into center and said, actually, Joey Wendell, we think he can play center, we'd all be going, oh man, this is not going to go well, for whatever reason. But just because it's Jazz, he's got the flair, he's got the raw tools seemingly to do it, then I think that adds a level of confidence to us as a fan base and maybe the organization. But to your point, listen, if a couple of fly balls are put down on the turf early, like Jonathan Villar, if you remember, Jonathan Villar started in center field, dropped a clanger in the first game. I think we ever saw him in center field again. So, that it could happen quickly, mate. It really could. I'm really intrigued.
And then you got to think about the bat as well.
You do. That's the key bit, though, right? The bat can't regress.
Well, that's going to be the thing, is that we know he can hit. You see the stats; he's got all the flair there. But say it starts playing in the mind of like he's overthinking where he's got to be and what would I have done in that. You don't want the bat going backwards.
No way.
So again, we keep saying he's got all the confidence in the world, and let's just hope it plays out. But I'm sure it's not the ideal situation for many people out there.
No, I'm intrigued. The longer term impact is equally as intriguing. We're talking about right now. Can he make it happen? Help the team right now? But I do wonder, what happens if he goes out there and he is a Gold Glove center fielder? Like, what does that actually mean for Jazz's career? Because I think we all feel and know that he wants to play shortstop. That's a position he's always played and has wanted to play. But all of a sudden, if he's a Gold Glove center fielder, like, what does that mean? Does he just become, that's it forever now, and he's center field pretty much moving forwards for the rest of his career? I'm intrigued, very intrigued. I don't know. How do you see it playing out?
Well, if it works out like that, mate, he's not going to be a Marlin, is he?
Probably not, mate. I mean, that's another topic.
What's the cost? I'm not good at money and all that side of things in baseball, but that'll be, my God.
It's expensive, mate. Shortstops are expensive too, it's fair to say. Like, elite offensive shortstops are. But I guess the question there is, we haven't seen elite play at shortstop from Jazz in the major league level. If he goes out there in center field and delivers elite level, both offensive and defensive numbers, then for me, the Marlins are just going to say, listen, Jazz, you may want to play at shortstop, but the product and the production is saying to us that you're now a center fielder. It's going to be expensive either way. I've been harping on about, let's finish up with Jazz, an extension conversation very briefly before we get into the first ad. It's something that's been playing on my mind for the past few days while I've been sat on a sun lounger in Tenerife and thinking about the future of Jazz Chisholm and the fact that right now, before this season starts, I just get the sense that there's a monster year coming for Jazz. And I'm just thinking about this from a Marlins budgetary perspective and thinking, if that monster year comes, that is potentially, fatal for this relationship moving forwards. I don't know. Would you look to try and extend Jazz now? I know there's a lot of knocks on him about the health, but for me overall, it's clear the talent's there, the ability's there. Maybe the Marlins just need to take a punt on this one before it's too late. What about you?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to that figure, but you go two ways. With Sandy, it's worked out an absolute treat, hasn't it?
Really has.
Absolute steal. Yeah. And then a few years ago, we were asking for BA to be paid.
True.
They didn't do it, and that's worked out. So, Christ, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes in the slightest.
You make a great point, though, mate.
Get it wrapped up earlier rather than. Why not take a punt on it? He's still a young guy. He's still the face of the franchise. Why not? If he can't regress that much, where he's not going to be any good. No. They got the whole new staff in. Get it done. Get it tied up. And say, right, you're the guy. I think you said it many times, mate. You're the face. Let's go, and then build around it.
To me, that's just what the Marlins have been doing. Like clearly, for the past year or so, like they've just hedged behind Jazz. He's become their guy, and they've really promoted the life out of it. And they want him to be a success. And all the stuff with the show cover and whatever. Like his profile is really trending right now, and if there's a level of production that matches that in the very near term, that is going to be very expensive for the Marlins, not just in terms of arbitration years, but also, trying to extend him beyond. The point you raised there, I think, is a really interesting one. Like their record in extensions and decisions around extensions is pretty good. They didn't extend BA. That was the right call. They extended Sandy. That was the right call. I think the only one that they've probably missed on was Starling Marte, going back to center fielders, where they did try to extend. That went a bit wonky. They tried to get him back in free agency. The Mets came in and did it, and they missed out on the player. They still need that player. Now Jazz Chisholm is being asked to be that player effectively. So, yeah, interesting one. For me, and what I've put out there, are, for those that have maybe missed it on Twitter, I just look at this and think the Marlins have hit on a prospect, and it's time, if they believe in the talent, and I believe they do, they should look to try and extend him ASAP and build around him for the next 6 to 8 years, in my opinion. We always look at the Rays and say, the Rays, what an organization, such a well-run organization. What do? They hit on Wander Franco, one of the best prospects around, and they go and extend him. $180 million for Wander Franco for 11 years. That's what the Rays did. So listen, if the Rays can do it, so can the Marlins. They nailed it with Sandy, and I think they should nail it with Jazz. Build around those two guys. For me, that's the approach they should be taking.
To a lesser extent, haven't Pittsburgh to Brian Hayes? I know he's again, but for them, he's still a big defensively. He's fantastic. And they've extended him for many a year because he's going to be a face of their franchise. Because who are they essentially? Yeah. What are their goals? Who are they going to get? So, similar sort of boat. But Jazz is more of a superstar, so get him locked up, and what that could mean for people wanting to come in, wanting to get traded to, not wanting to get traded, sorry, but want to come to Miami.
Definitely. They've obviously had a problem in the offseason, right? Trying to attract players. And so, listen, if you've got Sandy Alcantara and Jazz Chisholm locked into your roster for the next 6 to 8 years, or whatever it might be, I mean, there's two studs there right there to build around. And that you're trying to put a winning product on the field. So, great points as well. Let's get into our first ad of the week. And it's a favorite now. And probably, Witsy, you could probably read this one out now if I need to ask you. But it's our good friends over at FanDuel. You've heard plenty about them right now, I'm sure about it. So it's a midway point right now of the NBA season. No longer NFL season now, guys. We're talking about the midway point of the NBA season. And it's now the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and the threes drained. Love that one. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Wonderful. Absolutely nailed that. First ad back, and that was destroyed. NBA is my friend. NFL was tough. Anyway, speaking about money, men, let's talk about right field. Let's talk about Avisail Garcia, mate, because listen, it was completely disgusting in 2022 from Avisail Garcia. He still has 3 years guaranteed, 12 million a go. It's 3 years. For those that have mathematical challenges, that is 36 million guaranteed over the next 3 seasons. There's a club option at the back end. Mate, with the other options that the Marlins have and the way things played out in 2022 for Avisail Garcia, how much pressure is there on him in this year heading into spring to produce?
So pressure's a big word, isn't it? And that goes for across the whole of the outfield. There's different sorts of pressure. But for himself, he knows he'll know more than anybody how bad last year went for him. And that's not what he wanted in his first year. He got paid, and he'll bounce. You got to believe he'll bounce back. Haven't you?
we need him to.
Like you say, it's an odd year, like you keep mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
That money side of things, it's a difficult one. Again, this is one where they essentially the front office has been burned a little bit, haven't they?
They have.
They spent that money.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes at, with Avi, right? Where thinking about spring and spring battles, not just spring battles, but early season battles. I don't think this is just a spring thing. Like Avi's going to be given every opportunity, I think, to be playing there, primarily because he's getting $12 million, which is over 10% of the Marlins' total payroll. And so they can't have that kind of money, that kind of player as a bench bat. Like in theory, they can't, and they shouldn't be. But if things go poorly again, and it rolls into, bloated Avi again in 2022, grounders to third, no power, no nothing. Like, could you realistically see the Marlins moving on from Avisail Garcia? What I mean by that could be a bench bat, a platoon guy against lefties, traded. Could they even eat the money? Could they even eat $30 million to move Avisail Garcia if things continue on?
They won't eat all of it, but it's how where do they see the franchise going? Where do they want to go? I mean, if he's not doing great again, he's having another poor year, but there's others there who are stepping up. Yeah. Why should he be playing there? Why should the fact that he's getting paid this money for even an organization like the Marlins? Why should he be out in the outfield? Anything from last year he shouldn't be guaranteed a spot on the slightest. No way. So it's if Jazz is center and he's in right and that's set up, which I know we'll move on to. I don't think it should mean that he starts the slightest. But
no. This is what annoys me.
He's got himself in a better situation now, a better shape.
Yes.
He'll know he'll want to show people what he can do. So the money side of things.
I'm completely with you on that, mate. The change in body at the back end of the year last year for me was like the great kind of ray of hope that arrived, I think, for Marlins fans, where it was clear with Avi. We saw him. I remember Eli calling it out fish stripes like a month or two into the year, going, "Wow, look how big Avi is compared to what he was at the Brewers the year before." And then everyone was like, "Oh yeah, wow, Avi's really heavy." And then he went away and slimmed down, and we obviously acknowledged that he wasn't in the right physical shape to be able to do what he wants to do. And so for me, that was a big thing. And I'm intrigued to see how it translates onto the field. New clubhouse vibe, new slimmed down Avi, odd year. Everything points to him having a bounce back. And I think that's the key thing is we really need him to. We really do. But the really interesting wrinkle is, if it doesn't, what happens next? What happens next with Avisail Garcia? Because to your point, at-bats and starts should be earned. And in spring training, they should be earned. And in the early part of the season, it should be earned from Avisail. And if it isn't earned, there's other guys sitting there around to take his spot. Not just the two guys we'll talk about in left field, not just Jorge Soler we'll talk about as well. But another guy I want to talk to you about in terms of spring, mate, Heirar Encarnacion, who, for me, hasn't had really the biggest opportunity with the Marlins, but if he is going to have an opportunity, one of those will come at right field. So what happens if Heirar Encarnacion rolls into spring and absolutely lights it up, continues his winter at production? I know it's not going to be a situation where they'll DFA Avisail Garcia probably because Heyra hit 5 homers in spring, but how much pressure could that create for Avi, and also give the Marlins a decision to make on how they construct their roster? Do you think?
I say that pressure is essentially the rocket of his backside is going to make him realize, I need to get going, because some of these guys are not last chance or anything, but so they're going to be coming for him. And like you mentioned, the new clubhouse and stuff, a new approach, new hitting coaches,
Yeah.
It's all going in the right direction for him. So it's over to him now to realize and learn from what he went wrong. But with Encarnacion, I know he didn't have the longest time, although he had more games than I thought he had them when he came up last year, and more at bats. I mean, he wasn't. I know he had the Grand Slam, which is brilliant. I would have I'd probably just given up then, to be honest.
That's retirement, yeah.
There was an awful lot of strikeouts. There wasn't an awful lot more, was there?
No.
So I know he had a good winter. That's different kettle of fish. Spring, again, different kettle of fish. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he gets a shot. Hopefully, not for Sanchez or anything, but
no.
Hopefully he gets a good shot of platoon and stuff. But Avi needs to hit the ground running and fast.
Yeah. To be honest with you, the way with Encarnacion, it seems to be more likely his opportunity is going to come at first base if anything happens to Coop, or they feel like they need some depth at first. I know they've got Arias that has played that position and could slide over, but I sense that's maybe where it's going. I do see him a little bit as an odd man out on this roster, to be honest with you, in Encarnacion, and just the way the Marlins have handled his development and his opportunities. Like to your point, he hits the Grand Slam and gets sent down. To me, that was just one of those situations where that's not a confidence builder for a guy that you're trying to build confidence with, that you see as a big part of the future.
No, it's a kick in the nuts, especially for
kick in the nuts.
Yeah,
kick in the nuts is right.
I see him more in the outfield more than first base though, because I'm quite sure he wasn't the hottest at first base. But hasn't he got he's got a cannon of an arm as well?
So he's got a gun of an arm. He did, because in that salami day, he also had an outfield assist as well with the arm. So the arm plays. He's not great at first base, and that's why the Marlins didn't play him there.
Yeah,
but again, square peg round hole. You want the stick in the lineup.
That's Marlins in a nutshell, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. All right, we've got the one final position to cover, and we're going to need some time to get into it. So let's talk about our good friends over at Built Bar, and then we're going to get over to left field where there's a lot of discourse. But before we do that, Built Bar, if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try those Builts. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat healthier this year, particularly after a holiday. And if you're like me, you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then you have just the thing. It's those Builts. And they are healthy and actually tasty. And what makes them so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right, 100% real chocolate. All the flavors: churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut, almond. Not sure how Built does it, but these bars, they taste like a candy bar whilst maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is they are healthy. Only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. Perfect for those biceps. And you don't need to wait around and get yourselves over to Built.com. No, you can get them also at local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Get to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Builts. 4-bar box, cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. How about those puffs? Or Sam's Club. Get yourself over 13-bar box. All the hit flavors: brownie batter, churro. Thank me later and enjoy those Builts. How about those Builts? All right.
Good work, mate.
The meat and potatoes then, mate. Left field, right? Jesus Sanchez, Brian De La Cruz, Jorge Soler. We have to talk about Soler. And let's just kind of start briefly on Soler, and I really want to spend the time on the two other guys. I heard Skip Schumacher, and when asked about the DH situation and Jorge Soler, it didn't sound to me like it was going to be Soler primarily at DH all the time. And so for me, it sounded like Soler's going to spend some time in the outfield as well. And so that will likely come at left field. He was okay there. He was serviceable. And they're going to use the DH more, it seems, as like, maybe how Donnie used it in 2020 when it was available in the COVID year, like cycling guys around, Coop a bit of time there, Raya's a bit of time there, maybe Jazz a bit of time there to get him off his feet from center. Soler, Avi, I don't know. So I think when we think about left field, we also have to consider Soler. With that being said, Talk to me about Jesus Sanchez, mate, because I have never seen a bigger stan of well, you are the Jesus Sanchez stan, while Sean Barrett is the Garrett Cooper stan. You are the Jesus Sanchez stan. You've absolutely been banging the drum about this guy. I've got some numbers dug out as well, so I'm interested to see where you go with this. But just bring it to life for me, mate. Why is Jesus Sanchez, why is he the guy for the Marlins here in left field?
Wow. You've got to root for the underdog, haven't you?
yeah, well, that's the British in us, right?
Exactly that, mate. See, he's got something about him. He's got that power there, hasn't he? He's very raw and
legit.
He needs to learn. That's his thing. Last year, he got hit with the crappy stick.
He did,
and he really, he also wanted to step up, but didn't have the confidence Jazz has to say, "I'm going to go and get you that." He wasn't terrible in centre field, and that absolutely affected his bat. You think, what was he? He was 24. Granted, not that young nowadays. Not for us, man. It's very young for us.
Young for us, absolutely.
I'm losing my trail of thought now, mate. Bloody hell, he got me all excited about Sanchez.
Power, youth, asked to play the position. It affected the bat. You're right, it did.
It did, and the time they sent, he started off hot, didn't he? And everyone was all over it. He was flavor of the month and everything. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then it started to struggle because people were figuring it out, and he wasn't taking the time to see what was happening. He didn't make the adjustments, and then I think they waited so long to send him down.
Yeah, they did.
Which was struggling for so long. Exactly. For what purpose did they keep him up? And when he went down eventually, he started doing well again.
Yeah.
He had a great hit streak. He was getting on base. He was walking. He's definitely got something about him.
Yeah.
He absolutely has. So now with the new regime, a new hitting coach, hopefully he's taking his head out of his ass and he can show the fans what he's capable of doing. He's come from the Rays. I know they've given him up, but they know a player, don't they? So there must be something in him.
There definitely is, mate.
And he's got the competition now with De La Cruz, who had such an awesome end to the year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
So
he did, mate.
He needs to essentially show people what he can do. That power. I woke the kids up a couple of times last year when the ninth inning against Washington, was it? Against the Nationals.
It was the Nats,
yeah. Didn't I? I got told off for that one. And then the one against the Rockies and stuff. 496 feet.
Insane.
How can you not get excited about that potential? And that's what can happen, and that's what should be happening on a more frequent basis. He just needs to put the time in. Get that confidence back up, because his confidence must have been knocked, and it's not the easiest game in the world, is it? And once you've got no confidence, you just you're gonna hide into nothing.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. What you've summarized there, I think, is perfect in last season. In that started hot, then there was a hole in his swing that was discovered. He struggled to adjust to the adjustment that was made to him, and the confidence was knocked. He was out playing in center field, which equally didn't help as well. So there was like a culmination of things for the Marlins here with Jesus Sanchez. They sent him down in the end. They waited a little bit too long. He came back and looked better, which is great. So that's encouraging. Overall, I don't think the Marlins handled him well. He was asked to do things that he probably shouldn't have been asked to do. And we are where we are. The interesting bit with Jesus for me, when I kind of looked at the numbers and the bits and pieces, here's the first thing. He should never, ever face a lefty ever again in his career. Never one more at-bat against a lefty. A -18 WRC plus against lefties. He can't play against lefties. It's pointless. But here's the good news. He faces righties more often than he faces lefties. Jesus Sanchez has an everyday player in him, pretty much. He's a strong side platoon guy, effectively. He's got a 115 WRC plus against the righties. The power, it's a 70 grade power, no doubt. He hit 500 feet in course. Fair enough. The other thing that I saw that I really thought was interesting, playing at home last year against righties, 157 WRC plus. So he absolutely rakes in Lone Depot. Not many people do, Not many people's offensive production goes up at home. Jesus Sanchez absolutely did. 157 WRC plus at home. We actually have a guy that can hit righties the majority of the time. There are righties going, and it's at Lone Depot. Jesus Sanchez should be starting against every right-handed pitcher and should never take an at-bat against a lefty. That's my view of him. He's fine. Leave him in left field. Spot him in right. He can play either corner. That's how I see things with Jesus Sanchez.
That's the thing, mate. He is a corner outfielder.
He's a corner.
That's it. And the experiment didn't work, and it didn't pay off for anybody. And
it didn't.
Is no more options left? So
no more options, mate. No, they're in the tightrope now.
Another one, the pressure and the rocket up his backside to he needs to produce. And like you said, I think the platoon is going to be, well, looking at the outfielders we've got and people we've got to try and fit into it. I think it's going to be quite a big thing this year. Personally, is how I see it. I mean, I may be totally wrong, but there's a couple of people out there who can hit.
They can't. This is where my head's going at right now, right? So you then look at De La Cruz. Let's talk. For me, Jesus Sanchez should be starting against the majority of righties out there, and you just ink him in. And against lefties, need to think about it. De La Cruz, interesting splits. You look at DLC, hitting 277 against righties last year, 277 against righties. So he's got reverse splits, hitting 184 against lefties. So De La Cruz was atrocious against lefties. So you can talk about, well, can you platoon De La Cruz and Sanchez? You can't. Well, based on the numbers last year, you can't. Neither of them can hit lefties. So if you want De La Cruz getting 500 at-bats this year, it's going to have to be primarily against righties. So that's where you start to think about this now. If Jesus Sanchez is playing every day against righties, so is Jazz. Well, where's De La Cruz getting these 500 at-bats from? That starts to say to me, maybe the Marlins could well go with Jesus Sanchez in left, Jazz Chisholm in center, and Brian De La Cruz in right, or some kind of combination of those three. De La Cruz, mate.
That's how I see it. That is how I would have it. But obviously, we come back to the money side of things. That's not going to happen. It might happen here to there.
Yeah.
But I would be amazed if we come to opening day and that would be the outfield of opening day.
Well, De La Cruz. So Jesus Sanchez a 115 WRC plus against righties. De La Cruz 124 WRC plus against righties. Jazz Chisholm Jr. 158 WRC plus against righties last year. That's your outfield. Those three. Avi, he is a career 119 WRC plus guy against lefties. So Avisail Garcia should be the short side platoon outfielder. He should be. The Marlins, if they're serious and they play the numbers right and these guys play, they should go with a 4-man outfield, those three, with Avisail Garcia starting against lefties, and Soler as well, probably, against lefties too. And those two kind of become the corners against the lefties. That's what the Marlins should do. I'm not sure they will, but that's what the numbers are telling us.
And how can you not get excited about that?
There you go. I mean, this is
I'm glad you had me on for this one, mate, because if I said the big boys got to go, and if they do, mate, wow, it'll be exciting. It will be,
Yep.
And we've got the infield and stuff, like getting the guys on. But there's things to be excited about. I know a lot of people, it's the Marlins way in it to be, down and out already. But
it is.
I'm excited, mate. I'm excited.
This, to me, like as I've dug into the outfield, and clearly there's a couple of things this hinges on, right? Can De La Cruz, can he recreate what the second half of the year was like? That's question one. Can De La Cruz become that player? A lot of people think he can, or he already is. Jesus Sanchez, can he kick on, I think, against righties? Can he actually have a better year? I think he can have a better year. I think last year was a poor year, and it was still an above average against righties. So could Jazz Chisholm stay healthy in center field for the majority of time? And if so, those three guys combined will be a real nice outfield. You've then got Avisail, and you've then got Jorge Soler. That five kind of mixing and matching in platoon splits and whatever, how they want to do it, for me makes a ton of sense. And I think gives the Marlins a real nice balance in the outfield, defensively, offensively, and all of the splits you need. So I'm pumped. Who Just one final one on the outfield, though, mate, before we get out of here, because we're running long, which is standard. Just talk to me about the JJ Bleday move at the end. It didn't seem to be an obvious playing time situation for Bleday, but ton of minor league options remained. The Marlins end up moving, a former first-round pick relatively recently in 2019 for AJ Puck. Looked to be moving into a reliever role. What was your take on that one? Clearing some outfield depth, let's say, but for a reliever of a highly touted outfield prospect, interesting move.
Well, it sucks my card collection. That's for sure.
That's poor.
I was excited, but I was shocked that they traded him. I thought they might give him more of a go, but obviously, I'm guessing conversations have been had. The new guys have come in and they've identified maybe he's not the guy. Maybe Peyton Burdick shows more. It's disappointing because there obviously must be something there with JJ Bleday. There must be, but I think we've done better out of it. I think it's a fantastic sort of to get Puck in to the bullpen.
Yeah,
good couple of innings from him. Yeah, I mean he's not quite Hayden, mate. He's not quite.
He's not quite there yet. No.
No, but I was surprised to let him go. But like you're saying, there's people in front of him. His playing time, but he didn't exactly light it up, did he?
No.
Not to steal someone's a short sample size, but sorry, small sample size. Sorry, he didn't light it up, did he? So
no, he didn't.
It was probably the right person to go. I'm surprised he did, but what they got back for him was brilliant. They couldn't have asked for more from him. Take it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I love the move. I loved it. I didn't see much of an opportunity for Bleday this year. If all went well for the Marlins, I get it. If it was Plan B or C, but Peyton Burdick's around here and Encarnacion around. This guy's already on the 40-man that could recreate and fill that depth need. Let's say, but then Marlins definitely had a need in the leverage pen situation. I'm glad they've addressed it again. They obviously addressed it in some part last year. Left it a bit late. Cole Sulser, Tanner Scott. Cole Sulser seems to have evaporated from baseball now, I think. I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, but, the Marlins needed to do something. They have done something. I think it gives them a really interesting option in that kind of 7th, 8th, 9th kind of stretch, which was necessary, to be honest. And so, move a depth outfielder, take away what round they were drafted in and where they were drafted. Like, if you just looked at Bleday's career, minor league, plus major league, and you go, hey, you can get AJ Puck for that, you pull the trigger, absolutely. So
and
it is what it is.
With him gone, that maybe gives the guys in AAA and the rest of the minors like, hold on, that's one less person in my way. I'm gonna kick on now. This is my chance now, because the pressure on the guys in the big leagues is massive, following from last year, injuries and plenty of swing and missing. Like it's an exciting. A lot could go right this year. Take it that way, and hopefully there's always someone to step up and go, right, this is my opportunity now. I'm having it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be honest with you, each of the 3 younger guys that we talked about, that in my opinion should be the outfield mix against righties in Jesus, in Jazz, and in De La Cruz. Each of them, they all have opportunity. Just it's in their hands. It's within their grasp to take it. And I think the Marlins are really hopeful that they do. I think clearly they're hopeful that Avisail Garcia returns to some sort of form as well, and they see some return on that investment. But I don't think it's the be all and end all. Like if Avi's just cooked now for whatever reason, and then they've got a decision to make, and if he's then a platoon guy against lefties only, then it is what it is, and they're just thankful they've got. Somehow Kim's swung a masterstroke to get in De La Cruz for Yimi Garcia. Imagine if De La Cruz kicks on now and look back and go, wow, Kim Ang, another bomb. Getting in De La Cruz for Yimi. I think that was Kim Ang's move anyway.
I say that money, like we said before, mate, that money should not be the be all end all.
Yeah.
Winning is the important thing. Winning gives you that money back, so that's what you got to go with.
There we go, mate. There we go. There's no better place to end this podcast than winning is everything. And so let's call it a day. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day, guys. Thanks to Alan Witts joining me for those on the audio version. Alan can be found on Twitter at Wits13. That's 1-3. So go and follow him as well. I will be back tomorrow with another UK GOAT. Sean Barrett is in the house, and we're going to dig into some of the forthcoming rule changes and what it means for this year's baseball, what it's going to look and feel like. Equally, we're going to talk about the bullpen. So we're going to carry on this conversation about AJ Puck and start again into Skip Schumacher's comments around no specified ninth inning guy, which is very new for us as Marlins fans. So we're going to dig into what that means as well. In summary here, the outfield, I think, looks full of talent. And I think it wouldn't shock me if the talent ends up being youthful talent that gets the everyday plate appearances and at-bats. We'll wait and see. Money talks, though. Avisail Garcia, obviously on a big contract. Jorge Soler, equally on big contracts. But I feel like there's a mix here for the Marlins to get youthful exuberance in that outfield and create a spark for this offense. We'll see you again tomorrow, guys. See you then.